Welcome everybody to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio. And today is Wednesday, July the 2nd, 2025. And Michael's with us, Linda, Susan. Good to see you all. And welcome to the show. So Michael, I'm going to continue feeding this young man, then I'll turn it over to you. Can't hear you.
Hey, Lincoln. Lincoln Elias. Well, welcome everybody. Hope everyone's ready to rock and roll and see what surfaces from today's conversation. I know we have a couple of people who've said they're going to call in and have some things to share, but let's open the space with a couple of us that are here and see what anyone has to say. Anyone have a thought for us before we get rock and roll?
I was hoping Susan B would be on the call, but I don't see her on the call. We just came from Dr. Hayes's group, and she's feels like and also looks like processing through something really deep. And I was hoping she would have been on so she could have you could have assisted with the mind shifter, or not a mind shifter potentially, but the worksheet, because I think it would have been.
I think she's going to be here.
So if she is, I would love to see that, because it was really clear something's really up, but I don't know if she can find that on her own. So if she comes on, I was going to ask her if she would be willing, because I think it'd be very helpful for all of us.
Cool. Well, one of the things that we've been able to count on for the last, I don't know how long Susan's been on the show, just about every day, 6 or 7 years, is Susan's willing. I mean, she's going to go for it. It's one of the things I really admire about her. She's going to talk about it. She's going to bring it up. She's going to face it, and she's going to work through it. So we can rest assured that will happen. So Linda, you have a thought for us, young lady? I see you're unmuted, Celinda, but I'm not hearing you. And here's Susan. So she is with us. Miss Susan Bingham, you just had an honorary mention.
I did.
And so welcome. There was a request for you to be here. We want to hear from you.
Okay. You caught us at an amazing time, because we are just had a discussion on Dr. Tim's show about doing possibility or reasonableness of doing an exorcism for my grandson, and my daughter's on the phone. We're not doing it hastily. We're talking to her because Jacob is beyond reason right now and is in very bad trouble. And I know that's not why I'm coming on the radio show today, but that's why I was delayed getting on. Tim and my daughter are still talking right now. Anyway.
Well, holding the space, that's, I know you've gone through and been processing and holding a space for him for a long time. So joining you in safety.
Thanks. So I am available to switch gears. A lot of wonderful input from people on the show, but my wish to help is I'm taking a new tack, as well as doing my own work, and there's never end to that, but we've got to do something here if we possibly can. I know the Way of Mastery says you need to do nothing. Well, I'm doing nothing big time. But anyway, so let's go on with what's up right now on this show.
Well, Susan F. just made a request from listening to the conversation with Dr. Tim I'll leave it to her to share what her thought was.
Hi, Susan B.
Seeing as I wasn't on the show.
Hi.
I asked, I was hoping you'd be on this call, and I would love, I don't know if you're willing to do this, to have Michael help you, and that's not my hand going up, it does this automatically, that to go through and do a worksheet around this. What's up for you right now with how big this is?
Well, okay, so shifting other gears, Michael, I thought you were talking about Melissa, who was going to come on the radio show and talk about a very different issue. So,
Right, right. Melissa hasn't joined us yet. She had texted me just a
yeah.
little while ago saying she was going to be here.
Okay.
Michael, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I am here. I wasn't sure I was here, but I am here. But if she needs to do something else, I'm okay with calling back, whatever you guys want to do.
Oh, no, hang with us.
Yeah, hang with us.
Okay, yeah, I'll stay all the same, but whatever you need to do.
Okay.
Thank you. So you're Melissa.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I don't see you on the screen here, so you must be on a phone call or anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just calling in on a phone.
Okay. All right. Well, Susan, thank you for the offer. I don't want to do that right now. So if it's okay, we'll do what Michael had asked me to come on the show for, which was a conversation that Melissa and I were going to have either on the phone or on the radio show. And I'll let you know about the wake up sheet business. My husband is still on the phone with my daughter. So the other thing is so much in the works. I don't think I could concentrate on the wake up sheet right now.
Sure. Well, holding the space and breathing with your whole family, I know how deep this situation with Jacob has impacted everyone in your family. And so holding the space for him, for you, for Tim,
Thanks.
for his mom. I can't imagine what his mom's going through.
She's amazing because she does her work. She's much more even-tempered about it than I am. She is amazing. So anyway.
Cool. So Melissa had contacted me a short time ago and actually sent me a text with a link to one of the radio shows we did in 2023 where you were talking about an issue, Susan, and Melissa had been through some of the same process questions and questioning self. And so Melissa wanted to enter into a conversation with you around that whole issue. And so I'm just going to open the space, Melissa, seeing as how you, from listening to several shows where Susan spoke about this issue, that you felt inclined to bring it up. So I'm going to open the floor to you to introduce what's up for you and where you're coming from and how we can support you.
Okay, are you talking to me? Or,
Yes,
Melissa
ma'am.
or Susan? Okay.
No, Melissa.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay. If it's fine, I'll just start talking, and Susan, feel free to cut in and say something, or Michael or whatever. I'll just kind of tell you what was kind of on my mind that maybe I hoped would maybe give you a peace of mind. I listened to a lot of the old shows, which actually, before I say anything to you, Susan, I want to say Michael and Jeannie, thank you, because even when I listen to your old shows, I get so much out of them. And like this, I feel like not only I get something out of them, but I feel like maybe I can give her some help, and then in turn that'll give me help. So keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome.
Well, we are absolutely in this together. And you know, the Aramaic words that were translated or misinterpreted by the Greeks to mean the kingdom of heaven, actually in Aramaic, as I'm sure you've heard me say, mean the community of love. And what we're looking to do is to create a community of people who really are about living as the active presence of love and having the willingness to go into any issue that surfaces. So it's perfect that you're bringing it up at this point, and I'll hold the space for what opens in the conversation for everybody.
Yeah, I feel like it was, to be honest, I feel like it's kind of issues or whatever within me. I had kind of come to terms with and resolved, and I had done worksheets on and really thought I didn't need to anymore. So now I'm kind of going back and thinking maybe I do. When I actually thought maybe, hey, I could help Susan, it actually brought up stuff in me that I know I need to work on more, which is a good and bad thing. So, but anyway, Susan, I listened to a few shows. And I heard you. You kind of said it casually, but I could tell that you were struggling with it a lot. You mentioned that you had a pregnancy with a Down syndrome child that you chose to terminate. And by things you said, you talked about how much you're struggling with that. Even, I believe, if I remember right, that this has been many years ago, wasn't it, Susan?
Yeah, right.
And that you're still struggling with it. And in the term you kind of used is you're trying to do all these things now to finally get it right because you're struggling with what you did back then. And when I heard you talk about that, I really wanted to tell you my story. Thought maybe it would just give you a different way of looking at this. And if you're okay with it, it'll take a few minutes, but I just kind of wanted to tell you my story, if that's all right.
It is. Thank you.
Okay. My son, he didn't have Down syndrome, but he was severely disabled. And really, if you're around disabled children, it kind of doesn't matter what the issue is. It kind of works out all the same, really. So I'll just kind of get into my story, and if you want to interrupt and ask a question, please feel free to do so. I'll answer anything you have. Okay.
Sure.
Please do, Melissa. We're breathing with you.
Yeah, I know this is going to be a struggle for me, but it's something I want to need to do anyway. So, anyway, when I was pregnant, I did not know he was going to be disabled. I didn't have the choice that you did. My pregnancy went very well, all up to 7 months, and I got preeclampsia, which turned into full-blown eclampsia. My doctor didn't recognize what I had. My blood pressure went up to 280 over 175. For some reason, I did not have a stroke, but my son did. Then my liver and my spleen ruptured. The oxygen was cut off to both our brains. They, did the C-section, did everything. We both technically died for a little bit. They revived us both. The end result was he was severely disabled. He had cerebral palsy, which just means brain damaged. And he had a whole variety of other health issues. Sorry. His life was full of health issues, surgeries, stumbling blocks, and just about anything you could imagine, a lot of pain. I mean, even the most basic things were a problem for him to do and a lot of pain. He never walked. He couldn't control his arms properly. He only learned a few words. His head swelled up from fluid on his brain. He had hydrocephalus. He had to have a shunt put in. He had so much trouble eating and swallowing, and eventually we had to put a feeding tube in his stomach. He had various surgeries, like, on muscles and different things that he had problems with. He had digestive issues. His lungs would often fill up with fluid. He had to wear a breathing and a heart monitor, especially at night. It connected to him at home, which often went off in the middle of the night, and I would have to either suction his lungs out or had to do CPR on him, with his heart stopped. He lived to be 13 years old. Oh, it's rough. And as the years went on, his body declined and his health problems got worse. I want to tell you all these details, not for shock value or whatever, because I want you to understand what he went through. And I have to say I'm thankful for every minute I had with my son, and I couldn't have loved him more no matter what. And it would break my heart to think of not having and known him and had him in my life. But that all being said, and probably some people who would hear me say this would say it's not politically correct and it's not right. But that all being said, as a mom who loved her son, if I had a magic wand and could go back to where you were and make the choice of saying, should I end this pregnancy? And a mom could save my son from all the pain and suffering and struggle that he went through in his life. It would almost kill me to say, okay, now I'm not going to know my son. But you know what? That's probably what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
When he was 13 years old and his body was given out, and he was towards the end of his life, you have to make, when it comes to hospice, you have to make those choices as far as, do you want to do life-sustaining things? I had to make those choices, and I chose not to, which of course about killed me to make that choice, but I did. And I was holding him when he died, and I felt his soul or spirit go through me. I mean, I felt it completely, and I felt how freeing it was. And at that moment, I knew, as you put it, I got it right. And I'm just telling you, from a mom who was experienced and watched her son struggle and all that kind of stuff, in my opinion, you got it right. And I know some people will say, that's, oh my gosh, that's a horrible thing to say, but, you know, I would give up, as much as it would kill me, I would give up knowing my son to save him the pain and struggle and surgeries and all the stuff he went through. You know, if I had that choice to make that you had to make. And Melissa, I don't know if that helps you. Yeah.
Melissa, whatever, if you've had people put judgments on you for expressing that sort of thought, I don't think there's anything that even goes into the realm of horrible about acknowledging to yourself that that's a choice you would have made as a gift to your son. I think that's one of the things that love would do.
To be honest, Michael, I've never expressed it until I thought maybe Susan needed to hear it.
Well,
it's something
I can't
felt inside, but
you know, I can't fathom what, as a mom, watching that you went through. I know that as a kid, I was extremely ill, almost died 3 or 4 times. And I oftentimes lament at what I put my parents through. And I'm thankful that I lived through it. But bless your heart, bless my parents' hearts for what they went through as parents watching that kind of suffering.
You know, and I know, I believe on one of the shows, Susan said that, you know, they had told her child probably wouldn't have lived very long, even if she had had him. You know, and this again might sound cold, but it's like if he or she, I don't know, I'm sorry, would have lived very long, it would have not have been a good life. You know, and I just hope that she can realize that she did right by her baby. You know, she saved her baby, all that, and plus, if my beliefs, your soul goes on. You know, so anyway, I hope maybe what I said can help. And one more thing I'd like to offer, just, and I'm not asking you, Susan, so you don't have to say anything, but I know that if part of your decision was based on your own self, because I know that plays a role, you know, you're thinking about your life too. And if it was, don't beat yourself up for that, because having a disabled child affects everybody. I had another son that it affected his life in unbelievable ways. I mean, it changed my life in ways. I mean, like I said, I love him and would do it again if I had to, but it affected my life in every way. It ends marriages. It did mine, you know. It destroys lives in so many ways. So don't beat yourself up if you made that decision based a little bit on yourself, because it is a part of it. And also, still, no matter what it was based on, it was still the best thing for your child. Anyways, I mean, I hope maybe what I'm saying maybe can give you a little peace of mind from somebody who's, I guess, as they say, been there, done that.
Thanks so much, Melissa. The last thing you said helped the most, because since I didn't know, it was a little girl and I didn't know her. So I made the decision based on the fact that I was in my early 40s. I had 2 teenage children. I had a career that was just taking off. I loved what I was doing. I had not planned this pregnancy. And I thought, I just didn't want to have a disabled child. We did talk about it, my husband and I, before we got the news that she was Downs, and we decided to keep that pregnancy because we didn't think it would be right to take a healthy child's life. And that isn't a judgment to anybody else who decides, no matter what's in there, who's in there, that they need to abort. That is a totally personal decision. But in this case, when I found out she wasn't normal, I decided not to keep her, and my husband thought that was okay. He fought it more than I did. He thought, let's have her. I said, Tim Bingham, if you're going to be home helping take care of her, that might be a different thing, but I do the kids. And even if I'm working, I do the kids. So he agreed that I should be the one to make the decision. It was a blessing to find out that her heart was so damaged that when she would have been born, she would have died immediately. And I was glad to have spared her even that kind of going. Taking her in the womb, I hoped, was easier. But I've always thought that I shouldn't have been so selfish. And so what you said about even being selfish is sort of okay. It's okay. And I have gone to my priest in my church and confessed this, and I have been given absolution, which didn't seem to quite do the trick. I have carried that feeling that I know who I am, including a strong wish to preserve myself and not want to have to go to too much trouble for an unknown baby who, in this case, I mean, it would, if she was healthy, I would have brought her up and I would have loved her. And if I'd kept this Downs baby and she had lived, I know I would have loved her. And Michael says we never love anybody, but you know what I mean. In the way of mothers and children, I would have loved her. So hearing your story is amazing, because I would have been very much happier with myself if I had agreed to keep and go through with that pregnancy and see the little girl go through what she needed to go through without my intervening the way I did. And I don't think about it that much. I remember her on an anniversary when we took her life. I think of her, but it isn't as bad as I guess I conveyed on the radio show. I think it's okay. And after I had had that procedure in the hospital, my husband couldn't come and get me, and the hospital was about 2.5 miles from my house. I walked home.
Oh my God.
And everybody I saw looked like an angel. And the birds that flew near me, I imagined that they were her. She was riding on their backs. I had a vision of her rejoicing in being free from that body. Of course, I've always wondered if I made that up, but it seemed like a vision walking home. And I thought, how could this have been wrong if this is how I'm feeling now, walking home? Anyway.
By my belief, it probably was her.
That would be nice.
You know, I feel my son around me all the time and guides me, and
wow.
And he tells me I made the right choice at the end of his life, type of thing.
Wow.
You know, and something else I want to add, because now that I know you had 2 other children, let me tell you, you did right by them. And again, I'm going to cry because, I mean, everybody tells me I was an amazing mom to both my kids, but I know my older son suffered because of all the time and everything with my other son. I mean, I played this balancing act, but I mean, it was hard, you know. And
breathing with you, Melissa. Make sure to keep your breath moving. Let this energy move through you. Let it go.
You know, I'm just, as a mom, I'm just saying to you, again, you made the right choice, because it would have changed everyone's life And again, you know, like you said, if you had known her, you would have done it all the same and everything else. But your other two children would have suffered for it. And my son, my older son, loved my younger son and would have done anything for him and all that. But you know, and he turned out great. My older son is just an amazing young man and everything. So, I mean, all turned out okay. But I also know his childhood. You know, he was always 7 going on 25.
Yeah.
You know, and that, you know, I don't beat myself up over that because there wasn't much I could do about it. But like I said, anyway, again, I think you made the right choice. I guess it's just what it comes down to.
Thanks, Melissa.
And I hope
So,
you find peace in that.
Melissa, I'd invite
Yeah.
you to do a couple of worksheets around beating yourself up around this. Remember in the workshop, we talk a lot about regulatory speech, and we point out a brilliant insight from Shakespeare who says, "My words fly up, my thoughts remain below." The truth is, if you were at peace with it, you'd say, and I'm at peace with that with myself. But when you say, I don't beat myself up about it, there's probably some work to be done under the surface. Your words are showing you that perhaps there's still some self abuse going on some level.
Yeah,
That
I'm
would be good to
realizing
forgive.
Yeah, I'm realizing after even just thinking about Susan, I'm realizing there's a lot I guess I just dealt with. Well, I didn't deal with maybe. I guess I just accepted as reality and just
Right.
thought I was handling and just maybe didn't deal with, I guess. I don't know. So I'm gonna probably have a whole nother box of worksheets. So
Well, I hold the space that you being willing to open this conversation as it's serving Susan in hearing it, and probably everyone else who is listening or will in the future listen to this show. But that also that bringing it forward, having the courage to do that whatever needs to be freed, be forgiven from you around this whole experience, at how it impacted your other children, how it impacted your marriage and your family. And just hold the space that you're freed of all of that, that is loosed and freed.
yeah, I'm glad I did it, and I actually feel even better just saying all this out loud and everything I do, and I'm heading in the right direction.
Thank you for trusting us.
100%. You're the best, Michael. I'm just kidding. I know I keep saying that, but it's true.
Of course, remember, it's all done with smoke and mirrors, Melissa, so we know who you're really looking at.
I'm not sure about that part of it, but you know, to be honest, I don't. Everybody else probably doesn't know this, but I met you in Missouri, and I don't care much for Missouri, and I don't mind leaving that behind. But you're one of the best parts about me living in Missouri is I met you there. So.
Well, I'm delighted that we've had the impact with the work we're doing on your healing process in your life. And I don't know, it's better than 20 years ago that you were at that workshop in Missouri?
That was, I think, like an 88 or 89.
Oh my
It's been a long
goodness.
time ago. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long time ago. I didn't realize it was that long. Well, delighted
Yeah.
that we've had that kind of an impact and that you're still around playing with us. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we
You
hope that this
did all right,
opens.
Susan?
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, my heart was already wide open because of my grandson. So you got right in there, Melissa. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. And feel free also, if you ever want to talk or anything I can do, you got my phone number. Feel free to call.
Thank you. It's a treasure. Thanks very much. Really.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. Does anyone else have anything to share with Melissa? Any thoughts for Melissa? Questions?
I just want to
Support
say
to
thank
offer?
you. I want to say thank you to Melissa because I was just holding space and moving the energy. So I don't know for the collective, there was so much energy moving, and for you to give words to feelings that may have not been allowed to be expressed, and doing in a forum where there are many safe witnesses for you. You've done humanity a great service.
Thank you very much.
Definitely. Breathing with you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Anything else to share?
I actually has nothing to do with this. If nobody else has anything to say, I have actually a question from your Monday show.
Go for it.
I think it was Monday. My days and my kind of mixed up. You mentioned
how that
something
goes.
about about reincarnation, and I think it was your Monday show. You were talking about it, and it brought up something
Right.
in me and I won't go into a long story about it. But when I was little, I used to tell my mom that my name used to be Jackie, and I had this whole deal where we decided I was just reincarnated. And as I got older, I actually had a lot of memories. Bottom line is, I feel like I know kind of who I was in a different life. And I've
Right.
always just thought it was kind of neat and blew it off because I just thought that's pretty cool, whatever. But after listening to your show, it kind of made me think about, is that something I would maybe need to do worksheets on, seeing I think I know a little bit about my life and how I died and stuff. Even though
My take.
again, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Because just so you know, it's like, I was a young child and I died at Pearl Harbor. Not, I actually lived in Hawaii as a young child.
Right.
So I know that, I used to tell my mom I got blown up, is what I said. And as I got older, I kind of like had more and more or whatever. And like I said, I've never stressed about it or anything, but it just, after listening to your show, it made me think about it is that something, if it's in me, that I should be not concerned about, but I should think about, because does that make
My
sense?
offering, I think that's a perfectly valid question. My offering would be, is that if in those memories, the same as, if I had a memory of something that happened to me when I was 4, and that memory surfaces and there's pain or trauma or something for me to work through, then I'm going to do worksheets around that issue from the age of 4. And, so I don't think it really matters in the timeline whether it was something that happened 2 minutes ago, 2 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, or 5,000 years ago. The key is, and when people talk about past lives, what I usually offer to them is the idea of the memory of a past life is certainly one way of understanding perhaps what our generational patterns are like. And can we prove or disprove it? Well, there's some pretty good evidence out there, but what I usually say to people is the key, because oftentimes people who talk about past lives, it was like, well, I was the Queen of Sheba, or I was the king, or I was the Pope, or and it, as opposed to, and I've never heard anybody say I was the street sweeper, sweeping up the garbage.
Yeah.
And I think that it can oftentimes be used as a way to avoid today's life. But my take is, like any other memory, if it comes forward with some sort of pain, trauma attached, then I'd take the tools out, every tool we've got, and do the worksheet process, do the breath, do a mind shifter, do whatever you need to do to process through whatever issues come from that memory. If there are no memories in that issue, then it's just another memory. It's another part of your life.
Okay. And also,
That'd be my
let me
take.
ask you one more thing. Let me ask you one more thing while you got on there. Okay, the mind shifters. Again, I understand kind of how you're using them, and I got the sheet with them all in there, but can you kind of explain a little bit more about them, maybe?
Absolutely. And when we finish, I'll send you a link to a deeper explanation. But basically, a lot of people in the world talk about doing affirmations. And their idea of affirmations is, well, there's something in my life that's not true, and I'm going to make up a thought and pretend that it's true and try to force it to be true. That's what I see many people doing. And I suggest, please never, ever do affirmations, because the way, if you listen to the original Aramaic, and Yeshua talks about where the issues in our lives come from, and it's really clear. He says, take care the heart, for out of it are the issues in life. Now, in our modern, updated language, that word heart would be the unconscious. So he's saying, take care of what's going on in your unconscious mind. Open it up, clean it out, be in touch with it. And so if my issues come from my heart, and let's say, and I always use this example, let's say I have an issue around money. I just, doesn't matter what happens, always broke. And I do an affirmation, as many people would suggest I do. I'm always rich. I'm always rich. I always have enough money. I'm always wealthy. Well, if somebody holds onto that mind energy really tightly, they can move in the direction of producing that result. But it will be at the cost of closing down on still a deeper level their unconscious dynamic around money. The idea of a mind shifter, rather than closing anything down, is to open it up. So the person who has an issue where they're always broke, and this is the example I give in my workshop where I talk about this issue, is I give them a mind shifter that would be, I always earn twice as much as I can spend. Which, of course, the person who's broke all the time, that's pure BS. And you can usually tell you've got the right mind shifter because the first thing your mind says is BS. And the way that you use the mind shifter is you take a piece of paper, you divide it down the middle, and you write the mind shifter on the left. And on the right-hand side, you just free associate. You just let your mind run free with whatever's in there coming up. So the person who's got a problem with money, who's using the mind shifter, I always earn twice as much as I can spend, their mind says BS. Then write the mind shifter again. I always earn twice as much as I. Well, that's not true. I've never been able to pay my. Now, this person might write 5 pages. I've never been able to pay my bills. They repossessed my car. They up the interest on my loan because I'm always late with payments, and my boss cut my hours. Write down everything in your unconscious. Just do a spill. If you run out of things to write the mind shifter again and again and again and again. You might write it 50 times before things start to move again. But the idea is recognizing that the mind works, what we call the mind of man, which is what we're looking to bring healing to, works by resonance. Resonance is energy exchange. If I say, don't think about the color of your car, what moves in your mind? Something about the color of your car. Now, people call that thinking. It's really not thinking. It's just a pure energetic exchange of resonance. I add energy. If I have a middle C tuning fork and I hit it on the desk and I put it in front of another middle C tuning fork, what happens to the second tuning fork? It has no choice about it. When that first tuning fork is moving strongly in front of it, there's a transfer of energy and the second tuning fork starts to vibrate. Its motion is amplified. And the idea is the reason why we have unconscious dynamics is because we've shut the energy down so we don't allow it to be amplified and we don't look at it. But by doing that, we tend to press it out into experience in our world. What we're looking to do is to reverse that with a mind shifter and use the mind shifter as a catalyst to bring up whatever's in the heart, whatever's in the unconscious, to take a look at it and then being cognizant of it, recognize the impact that it's had on your life. And then, once you've, like, if somebody's got a really serious issue going on, I usually suggest take at least 3 or 4 hours, your phone is off, and just sit and write that mind shifter. Just do a brain dump of everything that's in there. And then you go back and look at, the 50 pages that you've written or the 10 pages or whatever it is, and you start looking at each response and where you realize, well, here's something in my unconscious that I really don't want to be carrying around. Then I'm going to look at, well, what is it that I need to do with that? What am I going to do with that? So So this person who's writing, I always earn twice as much as I can spend, comes to the point where, as they're writing, and this is the example I usually use in the workshop, they come to the point where they're writing about, yeah, money. Obviously, my parents, they were always broke too. Money was always a problem in their lives, and in fact, the last memory I have of my dad was when my mom and dad had a big fight, and he walked out the door. The fight was over money, and I never saw him again. Bingo. Big choke
Yeah.
up. There's where a major piece of work needs to be done. So what might that look like? Well, I'm going to do some worksheets around that. I'm going to do responsibility communication with my mom. I'm going to do responsibility communication. I'm going to, see if I can find my dad to communicate, clean that up. And so you look through at what the mind shifter resonates for you, brings up out of the unconscious to become aware of, and then what are you going to do to address those issues and clean them up? So that's the way a mind shifter is used.
Okay, that makes
Does
a
that
lot
make
more
sense?
sense. I kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. All right, well, I'll unmute now and let anybody else talk. I've took enough time.
Cool.
So,
All right, Melissa.
thank you
Well,
very much.
Melissa, Miss Melissa, we're with you right now, and you deserve all the time you need, just like everybody else does. So if you have any other thoughts, questions, anything we can support you with, that's what we're here for. And we're here with you 100% because you deserve 100% right now. So if there's anything else we can address with you or support you with, that's what we're here for.
Well,
And
thank
and
you.
we'll
I
do the
appreciate
same
it very much.
courtesy. Yeah, we'll do the same courtesy to someone else when they're on, is they'll get 100% of the attention. And it's yours right now. So if there's anything else to process or think about, go for it.
Nope, I'm good for now. No, I'm
All
good
right,
for
dear
now, but I
heart.
appreciate it very much. Thank you.
All right, extending love in your direction, holding the space. Blessings.
Thank you.
And blessings to your mom, too. I know she's going through quite a bit, so we'll hold the space for her as
Yeah.
well.
She's a little better, so she's
Is she?
getting there.
Oh, good.
Thank
Good.
you.
All right, take care. Lots of love.
Thanks.
So breathing with everyone, and before Melissa and Susan got on, Celinda, you had your hand up. Do you have any thoughts for us? Or actually, I shouldn't say you had your hand up. You had your mute button off. So
Hello. How are you?
I'm good, young lady.
Can
How are you?
hear me? Trying to get my finger to maneuver around all these buttons. Anyway, that was left over from Dr. Tim's, but I'm having a delightful time listening to all of the conversations. They all relate. And thank you for having these
All right.
conversations, all of us. And I will listen.
All right, you have a blessed one. Lots of love. Sending love to Larry, too. Tell him I said hello.
All right, thank you. Our son comes in from Hawaii today. And our
Oh,
daughter-in-law.
sweet.
So, yeah, 5 years since we've seen him about, and so 4 or 5, and so we're real happy.
Wow.
We're coming in
Well,
for a whirlwind 4th of July.
holding a blessing for that gathering. That's fabulous. We're
Thank you,
getting
sir.
in August. We're going to take a week with my kids and go spend a week with them in Florida. So I'm looking forward to that as much as I'm sure you're looking forward to having your son and daughter-in-law come in. That's awesome.
That's great, and I love you, and we'll hold you up in August, and thanks for holding us up in July.
All right, blessings.
Take
Take care.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so opening the space. Anyone else have a thought for us? Anything moving for you? Anything that you're ready to have move? Push your mute button. And let's go for it. Breathing with everyone. I assume that conversation probably moved things for many of us.
I just want to
Certainly.
yeah, it's interesting because it felt like when Melissa was sharing, there might have been past life um, issues for me. I don't know. And it's very interesting because ever since I was a little girl, I had a friend's grandmother that looked after Down syndrome children and, that lived with her. And there was probably 18 of them. Yeah, like there was lots going on. And I remember always being in really, and even talking about it now, really deep fear around being around them. It made me really, really uncomfortable. And so with Melissa talking, I could feel energy and as though maybe past lives I was as a mother or faced that in my own being, or I was that, I'm not sure. But definitely and lots of energy was moving within me.
Mm. Well, holding the space for whatever needs to move in that regard in every one of us. I
Yeah.
think one of the most wonderful pieces of information to have is that if something starts to move in us, it's the opportunity to work through whatever it is and to embrace it and to be with it. Even the slightest little twinge. I love one of the thoughts the Course in Miracles offers is that the slightest irritation covers the deepest rage. And oftentimes those little tweaks that come up can be the opening that allow, just monumental pieces of healing to occur. So,
And how would I go about processing that in a worksheet? Because I can feel there's something, it's more than a little tweak, I can tell you that. And how would I be able to find the root of that through a worksheet?
tell me more about exactly what part of the conversation triggered you, and what the response was that came with
Okay, so
what
all I can
moved in you.
tell you, it's more energetically than having language for it.
Right?
Um, a lot of discomfort and a lot more tension in my liver.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell that, and especially when talking about Down syndrome.
Well, in the
And
East, the liver is looked at as the seat of anger. So does anger fit with any of the conversation, or when you think of a Down syndrome child? Or
now that we're talking about it, I would say yes, but I would have not known that until this moment. Yeah, there's something,
right?
and I can even see, like looking, I can see faces of Down syndrome. So I don't know if I was one, I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm getting quite nauseous even. And it's really at the liver space. There's a lot of activity going on there, a lot of tension.
So allow yourself to just breathe into that and ask Ruka for assistance in showing you what the core is that you need to work through in this regard.
I feel like I'm in a mental institution. I'm looking,
Mm,
I can actually see the scene, and I might be in a body as such of that. And I can feel myself like rocking back and forth and
mm.
um, being trapped in this body. And then all, craziness chaos going on around here outside. And uh, yeah, I don't know if
Is
the soul's
is
trapped
there?
in a body.
I got it. So is there something that comes to awareness as to what would free you from that situation?
Acceptance.
What came up as you said that was just the intuitive hit that I got, was that this, having been trapped in that situation, may have been one of the things that led you to this issue where you have to know, you have to know.
Oh, yeah, I can feel emotions starting to rise with that. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now.
So just allow yourself to just be centered in your breath and just let your breath move. You can trust Ruka. Trust the
Yes.
breath to move it. You're not on your own. You don't have to do this by yourself. So was there perhaps a belief, having been trapped in a disabled body, that if you had knowledge, you could be free of it?
Trying to find, yeah, I can feel that's part, it feels like a soul fragment. A part of my soul is stuck there in that belief, whatever that is.
Mhm.
What would be the driver?
Michael, can I say something?
Go for it.
I don't know if this will help or not, but as my, being around Sonny and everything, even a lot of my family had kind of trouble with dealing with him and everything, and a lot of friends, disappeared and all that kind of stuff, and the close friends that could talk about it would own up to the fact that they really had trouble
It's
watching him
difficult.
and talking about him, and they even the ones that close to me could admit that it just scared them when they saw or talked about him, just how much it could easily happen to one of their kids or grandchildren. And even
Yeah.
as you age, how a lot of elderly people become kind of trapped in a damaged body.
Right.
And my mom, we were talking about my mom. My mom and I even recently talked, as she's been having these problems, how much more she had so much heartache for Sonny, which is my little boy's name.
Right.
And I don't know that that's what she might be feeling, but I know when I talked about him or people saw him, because his body was kind of messed up and deformed in ways that brought out a lot of people, because it just makes you think, how easily that could be you or someone you love. And it brought out that a lot in a lot of people. Anyway, it's just something I thought of. So
Yeah.
I'll unmute.
Thank you.
I can imagine it would bring up terror, deep terror for a lot of people.
I think this is a human condition in a lot of ways. I just
Yeah.
feel that fear around that, like not trusting in Ruka and that, and being able to hold love, but right away going to the non-being mind. And what came up for me when you asked me that question, it's interesting because for some reason it's connected to being known. Knowledge equals being known. As I'm in that body, I can experience not being known, and even the energy of fear all around it, but also the craziness. There's a lot of crazy going on out here. And I'm trapped inside this experience completely in my own isolation and deeply wanting connection.
So that would be the worksheet to do.
Okay.
Wanting connection.
Yeah.
Thinking that knowledge is the key to connection.
Yeah.
When it's being that's the key to connection.
Okay.
Breathing with you.
So thank you, Susan B. and Melissa, for bringing this forward. So this is obviously the next layer of healing.
Good breath. I think that, Melissa, you've tapped into what is probably pretty much a universal fear. And I certainly hear it and can identify with it. And I know that for my own process, as fear has become less, I can think of times in my life where there was someone who was obviously seriously handicapped, and I would avert my eyes. And I know today that I consciously, purposely look to the eyes of that person to acknowledge them. And oftentimes will make a comment to them, even though it's perhaps obvious they couldn't even comprehend my comment. But just to acknowledge that person. And I certainly can identify, having been there, done that, with the aversion and the terror. Even, I think, even just as deep, but not necessarily in the direction of, it could be my child or my grandchild or what have you. But just the fear of the unknown, of the trauma of that is huge on our planet. And so I, for one, and I invite everybody to join me, that we make a commitment to opening any fear that we individually and collectively have around the issue of being handicapped or being trapped in a damaged body. And that healing that in ourselves, one, is one of the keys to keeping our structures healthy and well. And two, that is part and parcel of healing this issue on planet Earth. Every person who's willing to go there, to embrace that, and to be the space. And when individually or collectively we can't be the space, the commitment, I, for one, put my hand up as I make the commitment to do the work, to clean that up in myself, to make a different space on the planet for that kind of trauma. So I invite everybody to join me in that one. Another thought for you, Melissa?
Nope, that's pretty much it. I thank you for everything, and it's helped me a lot just to talk about it. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And thank you for bringing it forward, having the courage, and for all that you went through as a mom with your son. And I join you in flowing a gift of love and presence toward your son, even though he's not in his body now.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we've got about 2 minutes left. Anyone else have a thought to bring forward? If not, then just know that from this space, we extend our hearts. We extend the active presence of love, this state of being toward each of you, and invite you to do the same in extending that presence toward us. And the place where it joins is the place where angels celebrate. And so being with you here and appreciating the fact that we have a human life and that we can gather the skills and the strength to embrace even the challenges that having a human life can bring. And we can really truly be there for each other. Whether it's the total stranger, the neighbor, or the person on the other side of the world that we haven't even met, to extend that space of caring and support. I open my being to embrace you in my love. And I open my being to be embraced in your love. Thank you.